So a lot of you left me a ton of comments talking about how good the Eternal Willpower is, but remembering how I was really confused on what weapons to use at the beginning of the game, I had to go back and give this weapon a real shot. And I gotta say, I'm actually pretty impressed on the performance of this weapon. The Eternal Willpower is a lightweight AR that does a really good amount of damage, can be used in a variety of situations, and overall, I'm a massive fan of this weapon. I fully doped out my Eternal Willpower. Let me show you how I made this build. Alright, now we are on the build section of the video, and quickly let's go over the stats of this bad boy because I wanted to go over those first. And what I have on this Eternal Willpower is crit hit rate, crit hit damage, weak point damage, and firearm attack. Alternatively, firearm attack can be swapped out with Colossus damage if you're making this more of a boss killing weapon. In my testing, that has been a better overall damage for facing off against Colossus, but you do what works for you. You probably shouldn't generally use this weapon as a mobbing weapon. There's better options for it, like the Thunder Cage or maybe even the Python. Other weapons like that works a lot better. You still can use it, by the way, for that. I'm just saying, for me though, I would preferably use this weapon as a bossing weapon because it's actually really good at it when you hit those weak points. Now for the overall stats for this weapon, has a pretty solid fire rate, has a 25 round magazine, a pretty okay 2-second reload time. We have a base of 20% crit with a base of 1.5 crit multi, which is actually pretty cool. It does do some pierce, so it does offer some different options from other weapons, so pierce is actually really decent. Unfortunately, the weak point damage is really bad on it. I personally don't like to use this as a weak point weapon. I think it's a bait. You can just go with an elemental for it, in my opinion. And then when it comes to its effective drop off range, has pretty good drop off range and really good MS, making it a pretty mobile weapon. And of course, it looks amazing, one of the best looking weapons in the entire game, so definitely really cool. Now let's quickly go over the build, and as you can see, the weapon only has 544,000 DPS. I've seen a lot of videos with other creators making these really high 780 million thousand DPS. For me personally, I didn't find those builds to be very practical because this gun has some pretty insane kick to it. In a lot of cases, they actually just put in a bunch of just damage mods and things that make the gun really inaccurate. They'll put things in like real life fighter, and then they'll put a lot of things that are inaccurate, and they would just say, hell, well, this will work, this is good. The gun has some crazy kick for me personally, and probably even for the average player. And so going with a real life fighter did not feel that great to me. And when you don't have things like concentration stabilizer, which almost none of those super high DPS builds have, it just didn't really make sense to me. It didn't feel like it would ever be practical. But just make sure you're getting your builds from someone who at least tests their builds out a little bit, besides shooting at a training dummy, because it's just rush content basically. Anyway, I do want to go over what I use, and you can kind of tailor it to what you think is good for you. But for me, action and reaction and rifling reinforcement is great. These are kind of like staple mandatory things that you're gonna probably use on this weapon or any general rounds weapon. For me, I went with expanded weapon charge for the rounds. One of the problems I have with this weapon is, well, two things. It's a crit weapon, so you're generally going to put crit damage on it, and you have things that make the reload much longer, like this. And seeing that their mag is actually kind of little, it's like a base 25 or something, it felt kind of annoying constantly reloading and having this little reload time. So for me, I solved this with expanded weapon charge. And when you add concentrate support ammo with this, which it is a crit damage increaser with 30% more mag, it feels pretty damn good. I'll just shoot it now and show you guys what to expect. And as you can see, it has 44 rounds, and with the recoil, even as being a bad player, I can still reliably hit heads. Now obviously if we're shooting at Colossus, it's much easier to hit that mark, and this guy's tweaking all over the place. But you can see I can kind of keep it pretty on point even without it, and that feels super nice. And obviously I play Enzo. Some people play Glaze, some people play Enzo, some people play whatever. And with the crit buff, if you ever play with an Enzo, as you can see, the damage on this weapon is kind of crazy. Next we have concentration stabilizer. As I said before, the stability on this is really nice, and we have crit damage. If you have better aim than me and you can handle the recoil rather, then maybe go without it. Go something else. That's why I left the slot open, so you can do whatever you want here. For me, I like the recoil, but you can do whatever. Next, we use fire rate up. Fire rate up is going to give fire rate. The other fire rate stuff, for those who are not aware, doesn't really give that much. As you can see, you lose 5% fire rate for 2% weak point damage. Those numbers are not good. I don't think they're ever good. I would never use them personally. With my special mod, I went with sharp precision shot. Now, the reason why I went with this is, well, a couple of reasons. First off, mental focus is not that good with LMG style weapons, machine gun style weapons. So for me, I didn't really want to use mental focus. The other alternative is real life fighter. As I kind of said in the beginning, it was a little inaccurate to use it, plus getting negative accuracy. It wasn't ideal for me. I would have preferred to just get more rounds off, which this actually does it really well. 20% fire rate by the time you pull the trigger a bit, and you have 44 rounds, so you're always going to trigger this benefit. You're going to get quite a few rounds that get all those benefits: the recoil benefit, the firearm attack benefit, and the fire rate benefit, because you have a good sized magazine. And I kind of leaned into the magazine because of that. And yeah, it feels really good to me as a weapon. You can go real life fighter. That's going to be up to you. You have open slot like this one, open slot like this one, so you can kind of tailor it your way. But I think sharp precision shot fits really well for this weapon. Next, we have a better concentration. I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, right? This is a crit weapon, has 20% crit, which is pretty nice, and it does a good amount of amount of crit. So having this crit damage goes a long way, and it's really nice. Finally, we're using concentration priority, pretty much for the same reasons as previously mentioned. It's a crit weapon. You want to get as much crit damage as possible, because you do want to build around the crit, and it does give you a lot of damage. Right here for this slot, I kind of just slotted it in a weak point damage. I don't know why, I just had 6 points, so I just put it here. You can go with weak point damage, but for me, I personally wouldn't use it. I would use something else. I think what actually would be better here would be some form of elemental damage. The only problem with these enhancements is they have different slots, so they're kind of annoying to put in, as you could probably tell looking at them. So it's not practical to always get them, so you would need to like kind of kata this one, and then kata something, and then put an elemental here, basically. Maybe even like a reduced elemental to make it fit in, because this one will go down to, hypothetically, I believe it'll go down to like 7, right? And that'll open up a bit of space to put maybe like a 12 here or something like that. So you'll have a little bit of like a elemental benefit to it, but you won't be able to get a full elemental benefit, so you'll basically have to level one of these up a little bit. All right, so I want to do a budget option for you guys, because it'd be very important to include a budget option. Just keep in mind, like when it comes to budget builds in this game, especially for a weapon like the Eternal Willpower, those rare weapons, I don't really like to invest more than 5 katas into a weapon. Like 4 usually is ideal for me personally. So from a budget standpoint, I'm gonna go over it, but just keep in mind, like, it's really hard to make a budget build that's going to be usable for taking down bosses, and this is, in my opinion, better at a bossing weapon. So you will need to invest like a couple of katas and a energy activator. I think 4 katas is actually reasonable, and a energy activator for a budget build. If any other creator tell you otherwise, their build will not work on a budget level. They're just lying to you for views. There's already enough of that. I try not to do it, but if I was to go with like a budget build, it would be something like this, and I would use action and reaction. I would put two slots here, get action and reaction. Fire rate up would be super easy to fit in because it's only 12, and it's really nice. I would use sharp precision shot because the attack speed is really nice, so I would maybe put an X slot here somewhere. And then I would use concentration priority because the crit is really big on this weapon. And then I would end with a better insight. This would naturally be 16 points, but because I can't put it in these slots, right? It'll increase it higher than the base, but you'll have 20 points left over. I'll show you. As you can see here, you'll have 20 points left over. And so I would go for like a crit thing here. And then you'll be able to fit that in with the energy activator. Put in better insight, and this will cost you 76 naturally if you don't have the kata. So it'll be a 4 kata investment, and then there'll be 3 open slots basically for a energy activator and 4 katas, which I think is more than fair for a budget build. I cleared the game with a 4 kata build. So you guys should be able to do it before I super hyper invested into like an ultimate weapon. But and then oh yeah, and then this would just be an interchangeable thing, so you can slot in fire, ice, whatever you want for the boss that you're facing off against, because obviously this will be a bossing weapon, and then you can just slot that in and give yourself a bit of damage. And I think this will functionally be your best option to go to, in my opinion. There you have it, guys. That is my S tier Eternal Willpower. Honestly, guys, as I said in the intro, you guys left me a lot of comments about this weapon, how you guys really liked it and how well it performed. And honestly, I'm a believer in the weapon. This is obviously going to be a great weapon for you who want to like have a good starter, and you're not necessarily looking to get ultimate, or you don't have the mastery rank, or whatever the case is. This is a great weapon. It feels really good, and it was slept on pretty hard, but I'm glad I was able to use my katas and build into it. Even though I didn't necessarily need it, it still was a good enough weapon, and I think it's worthy. So yeah, really cool. If you guys have any questions, or anything you want to add to the build, feel free to leave it down in the comments. I respond to just short of every one of them. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the first Descendant video very soon.